vulnerable to them. That was what truly gave the emotions whirling about her their strength, and focused that strength upon her, for she was their leader, and that made her the symbol of their joy and bittersweet regret alike. It was also horribly embarrassing, and the fact that none of them knew she could sense their emotions only made it worse. It was as if she stood outside their windows, listening to whispered conversations they'd never meant to share with her, and the fact that she had no choice, that she could no longer not sense the feelings of those about her, only made her feel perversely guilty when she did. Yet what bothered her most was that she could never return what they had given her. They thought she was the one who'd achieved so much, but they were wrong. They were the ones who'd done it by doing all and more than all she'd asked of them. They'd come from the military forces of dozens of star nations, emerging from what the peeps had contemptuously believed was the dustbin of history, to hand their tormentors what might well prove the worst defeat in the history of the People's Republic. Not in tonnage destroyed or star systems conquered, but in something far more precious because it was intangible, for they had delivered a potential death blow to the terror of omnipotence which was so much a part of state security's repressive arsenal. And they'd done it for her. She'd tried to express even a fraction of the gratitude she felt, but she knew she'd failed. They lacked the sense she'd developed, the ability to feel the reality behind the clumsy interface of human language, and all her efforts had made not a dent in the storm of devotion pouring back at her. If only... A clear musical chime, not loud but penetrating, broke into her thoughts, and she drew a deep breath as the first pinnace began its final approach. There were other small craft behind it, including dozens of pinnaces from the 3 squadrons of the Wall which had come to meet Farnese, and more than a dozen heavy-lift personnel shuttles from the planet San Martin. They queued up behind the lead pinnace, waiting their turns, and she tried not to let her relief show as she thought about them. She and Warner Caslay, Farnese's exec, had packed the battlecruiser, like all the other ships of the ESN, to the deckheads to get all of the escapees aboard. The massive redundancy designed into warship life support systems had let them carry the overload, barely, but it had done nothing about the physical crowding, and the systems themselves were in serious need of maintenance after so long under such heavy demand. The personnel shuttles outside the boat bay were but the first wave of craft which would transport her people from the packed sardine environment of their battlecruiser to the mountainous surface of San Martin. The planet's heavy gravity scarcely qualified it as a vacation resort, but at least it had plenty of room. And after 24 T-days crammed into Farnese's overcrowded berthing spaces, a little thing like weighing twice one's proper weight would be a minor price for the glorious luxury of room in which to stretch without putting a thumb into someone else's eye. But even as she felt her crew eagerly anticipating the end of its confinement, her own attention was locked upon the lead pinnace, for she knew whose it was. Over 2 T-years had passed since she'd last faced the officer to whom it belonged, and she'd thought she'd put her treacherously ambiguous feelings about that officer aside. Now she knew she'd been wrong, for her own emotions were even more confused and turbulent than those of the people about her as she waited to greet him once again. Admiral of the Green Hamish Alexander, Earl of Whitehaven and Commanding Officer 8th Fleet, forced his face to remain immobile as GNS Benjamin the Great's pinnace approached rendezvous with the battlecruiser his flagship had come to meet. ENS Farnese, and just what the hell is an ENS, he wondered, that's something else I should have asked her, was a Warlord-class unit. The big ship floated against the needle-sharp stars, well out from San Martin, where no unauthorized eye might see her and note her peep origin. The time to acknowledge her presence would come, but not yet, he thought, gazing through the viewport at the ship logic said could not be there. No, not yet. Farnese retained the lean, arrogant grace of her battlecruiser breed, despite the fact that she was even larger than the Royal Manticoran Navy's Reliant class. Small compared to his Super Dreadnought flagship, of course, but...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.